Welcome to Silent Screams Loud Strength. In today's topic, we are addressing intelligence when it's used against you as a survivor of domestic abuse. So, welcome. I'm Samantha, your host. Your intelligence is used against you in court. This is a safe space where we speak about realities that many people are afraid to confront. As a survivor of domestic abuse, sometimes it's hard to articulate what's actually going on, but because you've always been known to be intelligent, that intelligence is used against you. This is a topic that many survivors quietly experience but rarely talk about. This is a strange paradox that exists in many institutional systems, courts, legal processes, workplaces, even healthcare settings. If you're a survivor that appears too emotional, they are often dismissed as unstable. But if you're a survivor, appears calm, articulate, and intelligent, they are sometimes dismissed as too capable to be harmed, too composed, too educated, too strong, and so their suffering becomes invisible. Today we are going to talk about this phenomenon, why it happens, how trauma actually affects the brain and the nervous system, and why strength and vulnerability can exist at the same time. If you have ever felt that your intelligence was used against you when you tried to seek help, this episode is for you. Many survivors who come forward are not what society expects. There is an unspoken stereotype of what a real victim should look like. People imagine someone visibly broken, someone crying, someone unable to function. But trauma does not always look like that. Sometimes trauma looks like someone who continues showing up. Sometimes someone who still speaks clearly, someone who still works, raises children, or builds projects despite enormous internal pain. And because of that, resilience, the system sometimes misunderstands them. In a legal setting, especially survivors who communicate clearly are often expected to behave like a professional, witness. They're expected to remember dates, conversation timelines, and emotional reactions with perfection and perfect accuracy. But trauma affects the memory, trauma affects the nervous system, trauma affects the way the brain stores information. When someone has experienced prolonged coercive control or psychological abuse, the body enters into survival mode, and survival mode changes everything. the nervous system may enter freeze, it may enter disassociation, it may enter compliance, because compliance can sometimes be the safest option in a dangerous environment. So when a survivor finally reaches a courtroom or an institutional setting, the system may expect them to perform like a historian. But they are not historians, they are survivors. And many survivors are intelligent. Many survivors are educated. Many survivors can articulate their experience clearly. But that clarity sometimes creates a dangerous misunderstanding. Instead of being seen as credible, they are sometimes seen as too capable to be vulnerable. People think she speaks so well, she seems confident, she seems composed. Therefore, the harm must not have been that serious. This is a profound misunderstanding of trauma. Some survivors appear calm because they have learned to control their emotions in order to survive. Others appear articulate because they have spent years analyzing what happens to them. And some survivors become deeply reflective because trauma forces them to understand human behavior at a very profound level. But none of these qualities cancel out the harm they experienced. In fact, sometimes the most articulate survivor has experienced the most sustained psychological pressure. Because surviving that pressure requires them to think carefully, to observe, to adapt, and to endure. The trauma response is different from person to person. To understand this issue properly, we have to talk about how trauma affects the body. Trauma is not just emotional, it is neurological. When the brain perceives danger, it activates the automatic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system. This system controls our survival responses. Most people are familiar with the idea of fight or flight, but trauma specialists recognize two additional responses: the freeze and the fawn. Freeze happens when the nervous system determines that movement or resistance may increase danger. The body becomes still. Speech may slow down. Memory formation can become fragmented. This is not weakness. This is the brain trying to protect the body. Another response is disassociation. So disassociation happens when the mind temporarily disconnects from overwhelming experiences. It is a survival mechanism. And then there is compliance. sometimes called the fawn response. In this state, the survivor may try to appease the person causing harm. They may minimize conflict. They may appear cooperative even when they are suffering internally. These responses are not personality traits. They are biological survival mechanisms, but institutes often interpret them incorrectly. A calm survivor may be seen as unemotional. A thoughtful survivor may be seen as calculating. A reflective survivor may be seen as exaggerating. And this misinterpretation can lead to devastating consequences because the system is evaluating behavior without understanding trauma psychology. Institutional misrepresentation: when intelligence or composure is misinterpreted, survivors may face another form of harm, what researchers sometimes call institutional betrayal. Institutional betrayal occurs when organizations that are supposed to protect people instead deepen the harm. This can happen when evidence is dismissed, trauma responses are misunderstood, or credibility is judged by using stereotypes. Many survivors report that the most painful moment is their journey was not the abuse itself. It was the moment they realized that the system did not understand them. That moment can be profoundly destabilizing because the survivor has already endured trauma. And then the institute, meant to help them, becomes another obstacle. This is why trauma-informed practice is so important. Institutes must understand that strength does not cancel vulnerability. Articulation does not cancel trauma, and intelligence does not cancel harm. In fact, survivors who are capable of articulating their experiences often provide some of the clearest evidence of systemic problems. Their voices are not a threat to the justice. They are essential to it. So, for everyone listening, this is a message of hope and transformation. Despite these challenges, sometimes powerful things can emerge from survivors who refuse to remain silent. Many of most important reforms in history began with individuals who decided to speak about that system that overlooked them. Advocacy is often born from lived experience, not because survivors wanted that role, but because their experience revealed something that needed to change. When survivors speak, they do more than share their story. They eliminate patterns, they expose structural problems, and they create opportunities for reform. This is why voices matter, not because they are perfect, but because they are honest. And honesty has the power to reshape systems. So before we finish today, I want to offer a short reflection for everyone listening who may feel that their intelligence or strength has been misunderstood. Take a slow breath with me and let your shoulders drop. And if these words resonated with you, repeat them quietly. My strength does not erase my pain. My intelligence does not erase what I have endured. I can be capable and still deserve protection. I can be articulate and still deserve compassion. My story matters. My experience matters. And my voice deserves to be heard. Strength and vulnerability can exist together. Both are part of being human. Thank you for listening to Silent Screams, Loud Strength. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. As you know, I'm a survivor of domestic abuse myself, and my intelligence was used against me. Because conversations like this help hidden realities into bringing them into light. Until next time, remember, your story matters, your voice matters, and healing is possible. Be kind to yourself. Until next time.